Wright's 2004 horror comedy film Shaun of the Dead uses multiple editing techniques within the Shaun's plan of action scene, including a wide array of quick cuts, push-in and slow zoom transitions, whip pans, rhythmic cutting, and finally graphic matching to aid in showing the aesthetic and narrative of the film. This video essay will provide examples of how these editing techniques are used in this particular scene to exemplify the ways in which editing constructs a film's narrative, continuity, genre, and aesthetic. Both the push-in and slow zoom techniques are used within the film as an attention grab. However, where these differ is the emotion that the viewer feels when watching it. An example of a slow zoom is in the beginning of the plan scene in Wright's Shaun of the Dead. The slow zoom technique is often used within the scene to make the viewer feel like they are watching it from afar. The viewers feel that they are on the outside looking in as they watch the phone call unfold. This doesn't help that this is an uncut rush. We can't see who or what is happening on the other side. These slow zooms are also used within the horror genre to create a sense of unease. We get to see Shaun and Ed's reactions to the situation. However, we don't see the other side. The push-in is also used in the plan montage to emphasize movement. For example, when Ed pushes the car's accelerator, as well as when they ring Shaun's mum's doorbell. This adds to the movement and forces the viewer's attention to a specific spot in the frame, which we will mention later on in this presentation. Throughout the plan montages, there are multiple fast shots and cuts. However, throughout the whole scene, whip cuts have been used to signify the change of the setting. This editing technique is often used as an ellipsis within the visual. For example, the plan is using whip cuts to quickly cut to another part of the plan. The editor is using them to get the point across without showing everything that has happened. Viewers really don't want to see a 40-minute car drive just to get to the next part of the plan. So, they use whip pans as a transition. Whip pans are often used to show a change of time or a change of location. Editor Chris Dickens uses sound in conjunction with whip pans to make the transition to the next idea faster.
Then we grab Mum, we go over to Liz's place, hole up, have a cup of tea and wait for all this to blow over.
The sound tricks the mind into perceiving the movement as faster than without it. Throughout the car ride, we can see the outside of the car moving and the swoosh sound that accompanies it, which increases the energy level throughout the scene. The editing of the scene also heavily utilizes rhythmic cutting to accelerate the pace of the scene and, in keeping with the comedy genre, to punctuate the punchline on the joke being told. Rhythmic cutting is a technique often used to control the amount of time which we have to grasp and reflect on what we see. Included in this scene are 3 separate montages that thematically and narratively represent Shaun's plan to save his mum and Liz and wait for all this to blow over. In the first of these 3 montages, quick cuts are utilized to present a quick and snappy montage where we see close-ups of Shaun and Ed getting in the car, driving to Shaun's mum's house, killing Philip, heading to Liz's, having a cup of tea and waiting for all this to blow over. The following montages are fairly similar, but the main difference is that each shot takes up less screen time, or frames, on the screen. We see this considerably so in the second montage, but it is even clearer in the third, where the cuts take place so quickly that Shaun's narration is faster and less focused.
Take car, go to Mum's, kill Phil, grab Liz, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint and wait for all this to blow over.
In film editing, montage sequences are a vehicle for conveying a large amount of information to the audience at once. and the use of rhythmic cutting in these sequences drastically affects the flow of the scene to not only make it feel snappier and more succinct, but to give the audience time to process the improvisational and unadjusted nature of the characters and to appreciate the comedic punchline of the scene.
Yeah, boy! Recap, it is vital that you stay in your homes, make no attempt to reach loved ones, and avoid all physical contact with the assailants.
You believe everything you hear on TV?
These instructions.
The final technique that this scene uses is graphic matching. In film editing, graphic matching is used to create an overall effect of symmetry and balance to a scene. This scene in particular utilizes this effect during its trio of montage sequences. Director Edgar Wright and editor Chris Dickens have deliberately framed every point of interest at the center of the frame in these shots to create a sense of graphic harmony. In each montage, we see the car doors shut, Barbara's house, the doorbell, Zombie Philip, Shaun's cup of tea, the sign to the Winchester, and Shaun's pint all in the same area in the frame. In film, this technique was iconically used at the beginning of Stanley Kubrick's 1968 science fiction epic 2001: A Space Odyssey, which features a match cut between a bone being thrown into the air and a futuristic craft hovering through space. This cut was used to symbolize the evolution of man in a single cut. Both the bone and the spacecraft have totally different appearances, but perpetually they are similar in terms of visual structure and movement. 36 years later, Wright and Dickens used this technique to present the structure and movement of the scene in a way that is both visually striking and progresses the film's narrative exponentially. Overall, the film editing techniques used in Shaun of the Dead cement it as a classic of the horror comedy subgenre, and the Shaun's plan of action scene exemplifies these techniques to showcase its visual elements and provide narrative and thematic subtext of the film. To quote editor Chris Dickens on his experience working with director Edgar Wright and the frenetic and comedy nature of his films, what he wanted was something fast and witty, and the way it was cut was sometimes designed to be funny. He was into whip pans, jump cuts, all these things. He wouldn't plan it, but he would also plan for changing it. Therefore, you got something that's got quite a lot of energy and movement, and therefore the edit has more energy and movement and wit.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?
Yeah, boy!